mid because they've seen mid pick, and then they can just pick the remaining jungler. They know they're going to be playing Gragas at the Rek'Sai regardless of what happens, so there's no point in picking support early. Like, you get some value of the counter pick, but it's not like this entire comp is set up for a support counter pick. It's just the way the draft evolved after picking up the priority champs in the first rotation.
I mean, I feel with the Tahm Kench cover that it's almost like that they were somewhat expecting the Taric, because it is a very good pick into the champion.
They expected the champion that Vander played all 3 games in quarterfinals. Wow, they must have done their research, boys.
Well, I mean, one of 3 viable support champions consistently, you know.
But it's also interesting the fact that Forgiven going to be on that Lucian once again. Pretty powerful in the hands of that player, something that he is extremely comfortable on, and he can have a lot of lane dominance, especially up against the end.
And more importantly, it's because there's already inherent synergy building in any of these lanes. Rek'Sai can gank all 3 lanes, and that's really good for H2K and for Jankos, because any knock-up into a W combo for Ryu is going to be a kill. Taric's stun into knock-up is going to be a kill, and that's why I think this Tahm Kench is really important in the bottom lane too, because he can actually save Ashe. It is incredibly hard to even lane or kill Ashe Tahm Kench without a gank. So if Splyce can get deep wards early, find out where Jankos is, and predict his ganks, they can actually take control of the map, because they have ways to beat these. Look in the mid lane too. A well-timed Vladimir Poole is going to dodge a lot of ganks, and Gnar, with proper warding and being careful, should be able to dodge them too.
And of course, as we look at these 2 teams, it feels like once again it all comes back to the jungle. There are those strong individual solo lanes. Interesting picks here too with Forgiven picking up that Comfort Lucian, but bringing it back once again to this Rek'Sai, to Jankos in the jungle, the first Blood King.
Yeah, he does like to be aggressive. We saw that earlier on with his jungle gravity, where he basically likes to spend as much time as possible with his laners trying to set up ganks, and he roams a lot with Vander, and with this Rek'Sai and Taric combo, he's going to be able to do that. But looking at the overall compositions, what I think the big difference is from what we saw from the quarterfinals is when we saw H2K versus Fnatic. Fnatic had a lot of losing lanes in the mid and in the side lanes, and that is not the case in this first game.
No, they have a much better setup overall, and it seems to be working quite well for them. But, of course, champions are locked in, and the players are ready. It's time to jump into Game 1 of this semifinal between Splyce and H2K.
Today we're facing Splyce in the semifinals. This game is a lot to us because it's pretty much our ticket to world. This season, even though it didn't look good at the start, maybe we can win it all.
We just want to get the best result that we can. It's already been a really good split for us, and we just want to make it even better.
Oh, no.
They said camera 20. That's
No,
camera 20.
no, we're back, we're back, we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, semifinal, we're ready. It's no longer camera 20, but we tried our hardest. And you can be sure that Splyce and H2K are in the same boat as we get ready for Game 1 here.
Some tomfoolery. For people that follow the bot lane stream, that was Kevin telling us to turn around, and then he uses the front camera.
Oh, Kevin.
Classic Kevin.
But of course, a lot on the line here for both of these teams. Splyce, the rookie lineup in playoffs.
They actually brought fans. There's like an angry mob of Danish guys speaking with mouths full of potatoes right in front of Splyce. They even got a little cheer from the Splyce players themselves. So it's actually really great to see, fans come out supporting their teams.
Something you're not used to, eh, Kruppo?
Oh
my God.
What's that?
You came to play. Welcome, Vedius.
First split. All right.
Feeling a little confident?
Just got to start, we got to set the premise of this cast early on. But
he's taking off the Deficio already.
The constant stream of BM. Of course, getting set up. It's going to be standard lanes, as it always has been on 6-15. Looks relatively comfortable starts, although a little bit of push for deeper vision from H2K.
So, standard lanes, as you mentioned, this was something that we did bring up in Champion Select. And if we look across the board, Wunder has the slight advantage up in the top lane because he's playing the Nut. He has the range advantage. He can get the push onto Echo. In the mid, Taliyah is the one that will typically have the push early on because she can just constantly spam that Q out, and the Vlad is going to struggle to match that. In the bottom lane, this one's a bit of a dicey situation because you do have the Lucian who has powerful trading power, but then when you look at the Ashe, your ability to clear waves is a little bit stronger when you compare it up to the Lucian.
Yeah, Tahm Kench also has like harass range potential. You need to look at like what this actually does for these teams, whether this push translates in inherent pressure or not. That's what we're going to track here. Both teams did a camp here. Early access for the Ashe, so this is really comfortable for Kobbe and Mikyx because they should be able to dodge most of their harass. There is actually kill pressure on Tahm Kench in these lanes very early if Jankos shows up, because after doing camp and going to lane, Support still needs a standard amount of time, which means there's actually a level 3 gank possible to one-shot the Tahm Kench, because he won't have great health until level 3. It happens very rarely, but sometimes they get it off.
And definitely an option. Jankos does jungle from top to bottom, so will be set up to gank the bottom lane if necessary. And additionally, his lane already coming out on top in some of those smaller trades. Ash really poking down the Tark. Of course, relatively easy to heal up, but we got to keep our eyes on Jankos.
Yeah, we got to track where he started. He actually skipped blue, started top side, so he went Gromp, Wolves, then clear, and he's going for an early level 3 gank here. You know, if he can connect with Mikyx,
oh,
as he said, you know, knock up into stun.
Knock up, damage coming out, exhaust goes down. Mikyx now set to fall, looking for the flash out, is going to make it max range.
And that was so close to being a prophecy. You know, no great health available. Tahm Kench always feels super safe, but level 3 is the perfect timing here, and Jankos already getting pressured.
Action doesn't so gets nothing.
Gets a flash.
Gets a flash, does manage to make it out there, but already Jankos throwing down the gauntlet, throwing down the pressure, 2 quick flashes.
And he's showing his understanding of these clear paths, you know, because he skipped his blue buff, because Rek'Sai doesn't need it. This will also later influence the Taliyah matchup, because he'll hand it off much earlier. But he basically races a camp ahead, get his level 3 efficiently, and then invades on the Gragas, who has a pretty risky slow clear early.
And remember that he's not going to have his bottom lane to come up and support him too, because Mikyx just got chunked out of lane. Jankos knows he has the support of Forgiven and Vander should he need it. And on the Rek'Sai versus Gragas, as Kreppo was mentioning, he's really not going to be able to come out ahead in this exchange. So this is typical Jankos playstyle, where he's always looking to set up advantages for his team. But Trashy
doing something similar. Odoamne, that's a quick first blood.
This is completely unexpected. The Trashy hasn't based most of the time when he's chunked. People expect him to base and continue his clear himself, but he walked all the way to the other side of the map, and Odoamne honestly caught with his pants down, and this is a great gank timing from Trashy. We can't understate it. This is so important for the flow of this top lane matchup.
And it's really nice to see both junglers sticking to their styles, because while Trashy isn't typically as aggressive, he is the sort of player that will sit and wait for an opportunity to strike. He noticed that Odoamne got the early level 2, was able to get the push onto Wunder. That resulted in Odo ever so slightly overextending. Trashy was able to capitalize, punish, get the first blood onto Wunder, and this is a great start for Splyce.
Yeah, and this is also the evolution of that early path, you know, skipping blue and handing it off, giving Ryu more control, which means on his 6, he'll be pushing out mid lane, and then have the ability to influence either side lane, maybe getting them back. Ryu's a pretty common Taliyah player, even in solo queue, having very high impact, mostly due to roams here. So definitely proficient on this champion.
Of course, approaching level 6 as well, so Weaver's Wall will soon be up and available, potentially making for some cross-map plays, but with that first kill already dropping on the top side, pressure's starting to look in favor of Splyce, but as H2K push in, maybe not.
Yeah, H2K definitely have pressure on bot lane since Tahm Kench's flash has been blown, so he can't position aggressively and basically has to play like as if Trashy is playing in the lantern position. Always have Devour ready, but that doesn't mean they're going to lose any CS. Splyce is aware of the Rek'Sai potentially being top jungler because there were some things on him earlier. However, they may not be ready for the 3-man dive with Taliyah.
Taliyah on the way in. Weaver's Wall comes out, zones him back from the tower. Wunder in trouble. Hop, skip, and a jump. Not going to be enough. Flash taking him to safety. Meganar not coming out. And Ryu picking up that kill in response.
And even though they pinged him in river, because there was a question mark ping about 40 seconds ago in river, in between wards, potentially indicating that Rek'Sai could be there because they knew he had enough blue buff. So this is all deduction, you know. They see Taliyah come mid with blue buff. Okay. The Rek'Sai handed it off. What's Rek'Sai's next logical move? Well, it may be to path into the jungle top and dive, but the problem is there was no counterplay ready. There is no teleport mid here, and H2K are really working towards the grab.
Stun still comes out. Wunder, what are you doing? This is not what you want. He gets cut down again.
Wunder uses his teleport to try and protect the tower. He thinks that he's going to be healthy enough to set up that dive, but he does not respect the fact that there is so much damage available in this duel.
And this is poor planning. Granted, these scenarios don't really happen too much, but if we look back and we kind of play like backseat gaming, you know, the hindsight 2020, the correct play here for Splyce is to have Wunder TP bot on a creep and force a 4-man dive while Vladimir roams down. Because Taliyah went top, the counter for you is to cross map and go bottom here. But you can clearly see that Splyce in this game 1 is a little bit uncomfortable. They got caught off guard by the 3-man dive top, Wunder overstayed, which is fine, that happens. But then the correct play would be to use your teleport that he had an advantage over, because Odoamne's teleport was down, to go bottom and force a 5v2 dive, which even super effective against the likes of Forgiven. Just tilts.
And you even had Trashy already in the bottom half of the map, because the moment he saw Jankos set up for the gank, he immediately went in for the invade. You can see all the deep vision in H2K's bottom half of the map. And that's just resulting in Trashy trying to respond to the pressure the Jankos are trying to exert.
Now, the only saving grace right now for Splyce is that they are a team that has historically done decently well in lane swaps despite having an early deficit in gold in a lot of the games. And one of the main reasons is that Splyce is a team that understands how to play an open map, which basically means a lot of tier 1 towers dead. Mainly because when they draft Tahm Kench picks, and you'll see this later on, they'll put Kobbe and Mikyx mid, as Trashy is being challenged.
Yeah, a decent amount of poke there. Continue.
They'll put Kobbe and Mikyx mid, and then use the Tahm Kench to gank the side lanes here. That's hopefully their game plan later. H2K already have a big lead, and they're looking to beat up Wunder.
Tunnel over the wall, knockup goes in, Meganar on the way, but I don't think it's gonna be enough. In comes Gragas, buying time, Rage still ticking up, no! Gets hit by the Time Wander on the back half.
And this is just constant, relentless pressure coming out from Jankos to shut down the already weak Gnar in the top lane. Odo had a big minion wave pushing in his favor. Jankos had a pre-prepared tunnel to set up for the flank. They get the collapse done onto Wunder, and even though Trashy is there to respond, he just cannot do enough to keep his top laner alive.
And gentlemen, as we approach a 3K gold lead, we talked about this in Champion Select, Splyce needing to get down deep vision to shut down Jankos, and they just have not.
They have not, but they knew he was there, but it's not about the vision only, it's about thinking what the enemy composition can do, and also planning your next move ahead of time. Right now, look at the siphoning of pressure here. Top lane pushed in, which means Odoamne is freed up. He can just move mid for some additional pressure. Maybe he can get bottom up turret, maybe he can steal away Raptors here, but Trashy is being continuously challenged in his own jungle. Look at Jankos here. Krugs are up, red buff is up, Gromp is up, but he doesn't care. He's just taking away from Trashy, getting a net gain for his team.
And I'm just really impressed with Jankos' pathing overall, because we talked about how the lane advantage was in favor of Splyce up top, the mid lane was in favor of K, and the bottom lane was a slightly undecided one. So Jankos went straight bot early. He got that advantage. He enabled H2K to have a solid laning phase, and then he focused all of his attention onto the top side of the map, which was their only weak lane. And now H2K have 3 strong lanes that are constantly pushing in their favor, which is exactly how this team likes to play.
And not just 3 strong lanes, a strong jungler as well. You can see Jankos busting out the Tiamat, a sure sign of confidence, improving that jungle clear, and also giving him so much more damage here in the early game.
Yeah, but we already see what the series is going to be all about. After we maybe swap sides, H2K will have side selection in the next game, so they could actually repeat this pick and ban. We see more pressure on Sencux. Has pool and summer, so he'll be fine, but it's more about burning them. Every little gank and every little stab takes away some resources, and then eventually Splyce will break. For Splyce to get out of this one, they need to start using Tahm Kench ulti, surprise Gragas behind the tower, you know, make a proactive move that catches H2K off guard.
And of course, they do have the tools to make those proactive moves. Gragas, as you mentioned, the Ash Arrow, a great tool. We saw Prey put it to good use earlier today in the LCK final. No cleanse available for any of the members on the side of H2K, so a potential opening, but not one Splyce have capitalized on.
Now remember, this is something that we have seen from Splyce a lot throughout the regular split. They often fall in deficits at around the 50-minute mark, but they always find a way of coming back into that, because this is a smart team. They know how to use their composition well, and once these mid-game fights around objectives like the Dragon, and maybe even the Rift Herald start to kick off, is really where we should start to see the strengths of Splyce's team play.
Yeah, I feel like H2K, they send their jungle to the right side of the map because that's where they need pressure, but the blue buff is up. So Odoamne is using his advantage that he has top to hand off blue buff to his mid laner. He reveals enemy jungler, then he goes top to catch that wave. He always has lane priority over the Gnar right now, and you can like make advantages flow from one side of the map into the other. Right now, more pressure here with the culling. They're just trying to get the wave into the tower without it being cleared too much. That's their goal, because look at Talia with Rek'Sai. H2K is spelling out their plan ahead of time, but the problem is there's so little Splyce can do in React, other than maybe get a lucky teleport.
Oh, Tahm Kench trying to carry into safety, hits him with the Prey Seeker, beautiful shot, immortality coming in from the Taric, and vulnerability to damage, more than enough to grab that kill. One picked up, Kobbe next on the menu, not even going to get Vander in return.
Honestly, beautifully executed here by H2K. The presence of mind for Jankos to cancel that Tahm Kench ulti. Any semblance of damage being triggered will cancel that channel. It channels for 6 seconds. If somebody hops into it, it will complete and go off immediately. But the problem was Kobbe hopped in. He was ready for the Tahm Kench glorious ride. Then a Prey Seeker stopped it all. H2K looking for this tower and more.
Not going to get the stun. Hop, skip, and a jump out from Wunder, but Splyce just having to concede this tower.
And we're seeing now the advantages of being able to have your top laner go wherever he wants. He'd already built up that massively in the top lane. He has the workings of his Trinity Force nearly completed, and because he had that teleport available, it was a 5-man setup in the bottom lane, and you can just see the setup already coming in with that deep ward from Odoamne teleporting in from the lane. 5 members of H2K guaranteeing the double kill in the bottom.
Yeah, Jankos set this up, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You know, Jankos, he was playing on the right side of the map with his mid laner role with blue buff. So instead of going like a traditional route, it was like, okay, it's 12 minutes of the game, I need to hand off my blue. No, somebody else can do that for Taliyah. I go right side. Taliyah with the blue buff pushes into mid lane really easily, and we siphon those advantages, siphon that power into the bot lane, and go for a dive. H2K really planning out their moves ahead of time, playing with the right amount of pressure, and this spells out how the series is going to evolve, and also why Taliyah is ranked so highly and such a valuable pick in LPL over in LCK too. You know, sometimes even as far as first pick mid, and why Aurelion Sol is banned out too, because he can actually match the push and do similar gameplay patterns. It's all about push mid and translate that pressure into bot and top right now.
Yeah, impressive play from H2K. Not only are they taking advantage of these top-tier picks like Taliyah, these rising picks, but they're distributing their resources, as you mentioned, so well, being sure to help out each individual lane as best they can, giving the opportunity for Jankos to make these daring plays.
But now that these tier 1 towers have been taken down, the game does slow down for H2K. Luckily, they have a gold lead larger than they should have in the matchup. But this is where Splyce maybe has a way back in, because they have the Tahm Kench that can do similar things to Taliyah wall, except he can carry an ally with him. Problem is, Kobbe's fine.
Kobbe. That's a lot of damage coming out early, and it only gets harder, especially as the Taliyah's advantage continues to grow. 20 CS up in the mid lane for Ryu.
So now H2K have started to group up mid. This is the final tier 1 turret on their list of objectives to take. And Splyce have no answer, because notice earlier on, Forgiven and Vander had already pushed up top lane. Sencux was expecting the 1-3-1 to come out from H2K. He is then forced to go to the top side of the map, throw out that wave. They don't have enough wave clear to deal with the pressure mid. When you add to the fact that Ryu had already chunked out Kobbe, it was an easy tier 1 turret in the mid for H2K. They net themselves another advantage, so 5,000 gold in the lead and only 14 minutes.
That's just what I was going to say. 5-1 in kills as well. Such a... I mean, just a domination thus far from H2K. Splyce look completely lost, and this is not how you want to start a series. Not only a series, their first best-of-5 series since they've joined the LCS outside of the promotion tournament.
Also super interesting to see Essence Reaver on Lucian being picked up here. Given the player that you would honestly give the Ghostblade build the most to. Kind of overextending right here now.
Well, potentially in trouble. Vladal goes down, Hemoplague. Heal up Sencux, but Tahm Kench looking to carry someone out. No Prey Seeker this time. It's a little too late from the side of Splyce.
Bit of miscommunication there from Splyce, because the play was already in motion with the fact that Sencux is in a great position. But look at Kobbe, forced to flash.
Oh, trying to make his way out, but he's got backup on the way. Tahm Kench ready. Unraveled Earth, not going to be enough in that circumstance. In goes Trashy, he's looking to make a play. Ryu knocked back into the team. In comes the Parallel Convergence, defensive use of that ability. Pulling back, Jankos now left alone, is going to take one tunnel out. We'll look to make a second one here over the wall. Splyce not walking away with anything.
Splyce biting back a little bit at the aggression of H2K. Unfortunately, they're not quite able to net themselves any kills, but this is still a pretty big thing for H2K, because they forced the flash out of Kobbe. He's not going to have that available in these next fights, and Ryu, with his use of his E and W combo, it's actually very impressive with how often he's able to tag up Kobbe.
I mean, clearly Ryu was very experienced on this champion, but additionally Ryu was also lost out on those summoner spells, so it feels like if there's an opportunity for Splyce to capitalize, this could be it.
Yeah, Splyce need to find a moment where H2K is kind of sleeping. Like 5,000 gold lead at this point in the game is incredibly large. At this point, Splyce may very well be planning like their next game already in their heads. You know, where did it go wrong in terms of like approach to the game? If H2K comes out with a playstyle like this, it is fair to assume that they have multiple iterations of it. You know, different champions that can achieve the same goal.
Bear in mind, Splyce chose the red side in this first game. They were the highest seed. They decided that they wanted to try and get the counter pick. They willingly gave over the Rek'Sai, knowing that Jankos would prioritize it. So far, they haven't had any answer to it.
Well, honestly, they were aware of Jankos' pathing on the Rek'Sai, honestly. They dodged the level 2 gank. Yes, there was a flash on Mikyx, but I think what the biggest failure of Splyce was the fact that they weren't ready for the combination of the Rek'Sai and the Taliyah separately, which is a bit of a surprise, because Sencux plays a lot of Taliyah. Even Mikyx in off-roll plays a lot of Taliyah in solo queue.
We're trying to get out of here. Knockup does go down. He's got plenty of health, though. Should just back out of that one. But a lot of aggression coming in from H2K, and this team has been in the driver's seat since minute 1. Now, of course, as we continue to look at the game, looking back at the draft, do you think it's worth trading this Rek'Sai pick for the Gnar Ashe? We haven't seen either of these really be too impactful at this stage.
I think for me, it boils down to the biggest play that kind of sums up why Splyce is losing was the teleport back into top lane from Wunder. And the failure for Splyce to realize as a team that the correct play there was to yield top and go for a cross map. They were so tunneled on not giving the brick the first tower goal over to H2K that they tried to chase a loss. And that generally leads to bigger losses. Sometimes it's okay to trade and scale and then take advantage of the open map with the Tahm Kench ulti, you know, match that view wall roaming power.
But I do want to keep my eyes on some of the items that have been done, because remember that Splyce, they still have a pretty good scaling comp. They have the Ashe, they have the Vladimir, and Gnar is still going to be that tanky frontline. And when you combine that with the amount of crowd control that a Gragas can provide, they still have a lot of team fighting power. And this is something that you could argue that Talia is not necessarily the best at. She's really good at roaming, she's really good at skirmishing, but in the full 5-on-5 team fights, she is a little bit harder to play, and she can't add as much value as necessarily a 2-item Vladimir can. So
Talia, she excels at kiting,
yeah,
more or less.
exactly.
It's going to be hard to make that happen here. Wunder's still having a good trade on Odo here.
Frozen
Mallet is an influencer in this matchup. Odo has the flash.
Burn down the end of this top lane matchup, of course. Echo going to have the advantage for the most part in those 1v1s, but if he ever starts to lose, Frozen Mallet makes that so rough.
Now this was a problem with H2K, even in Spring Split for a tad. It's like once the map was open, they had a snowball, they were almost so bought into the macro hype that they did everything perfectly. You know, they set up all the vision, but they never really pulled the trigger on anything.
Well, when we look back at their set versus Fnatic, I mean, it was a similar story. Their early game, they always got these big advantages, and while for the most part they did close out, they still had a few of those struggles. Of course, that's nitpicking. It's a 3-0. It was a great set from H2K, but when we look, there are some clear signs that they struggle in the mid game.
Well, I wouldn't call it struggling. I mean, these guys are 5,000 gold.
Okay.
What a struggle. Ooh, that's like literally the definition of a first world problem. But if there's any way in for Splyce, you know, if we have to look for the 1% chance, that is the way Splyce gets back in. It's waiting long enough, staying even in gold gains, that relatively speaking, that 5K becomes less and less impactful later on. But it's still an enormous advantage here. We can't downplay it enough. Like, this is just shouldn't happen.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, though, what we have to remember is that the last time these two teams played, it was a similar story for H2K. Huge early game lead, and one over-aggressive play threw it all away from them. So I feel like maybe that is still with them, and that they're playing a little too safe here.
Now bear in mind that a lot of the gold is coming from the fact that H2K have 3 towers to the 0 of Splyce. So they could look to pressure a little bit more on the top and trade this dragon for that first tier 1 in the top half of the map. It looks like they're not actually going to try and prioritize that and instead give a free objective over to H2K. I feel as though in this situation, perhaps you could have forced Odo to teleport into the top half of the map to try and protect it, or you could have netted yourself a free objective and closed that gold gap ever so slightly.
Problem here is for Splyce, they're working on their very limited vision here. They're also very scared. I think they traded the dragon for a good base timing on Sencux. They have the Vladimir in the side lane right now. Somebody needs to match that. Probably the strongest duelist left on Splyce. So if any pressure is going to come out, it's going to be from somebody influencing that Vladimir lane, or maybe, you know, a good Gnar flank.
Be interesting to see, and of course risky as well, because H2K working with about a 2 global advantage Slee ult, not quite global, but having more overall map mobility options coming out here as opposed to the single teleport coming in from Wunder. Splyce kind of limited in what they're going to be able to do when it comes to responding across the map.
Yeah, Splyce's plan right now is to stall this Baron vision from being set up. It's not about preventing the Baron, it's honestly from preventing the really deep red side Baron vision that H2K wants to put in here. And now we get to judge the wondrous Jankos Vander synergy as well. You know, support jungle going in, setting up that vision. Although at this point it might as well be jungle synergy, because Jankos is strong enough to 1v2. He's just walking in water on his own.
It's pretty terrifying, this stage of the game. 0-0-5. At least Trashy's keeping up in farm, but just has not been able to have the same impact across the map. And it just feels like Splyce now pretty consistently on the back foot, and just going to have pretty much just have to wait for H2K to make a mistake.
Yeah, this is where you get to judge the closing ability of H2K. Because first towers are open, they get the dragons, they did everything fine up to this point. There's no way they can get a bigger gold advantage without taking really risky moves, in my opinion. Because you need some objectives to draw Splyce to different areas of the map, and Baron definitely is one of those objectives. So bringing more pink wards to the party, and they already have 3 in position, which is great. One of them is a bit wasted. It's the one on the Scuttle Grab location. Those actually have to move into Splyce's jungle, de-ward, and then they can force Splyce to face check. That is the goal that H2K want to achieve. Or when Splyce overcommit to defending that area, simply rotate down in the bottom lane, take your 2.
A lot more flexibility, of course, as we mentioned earlier with the globals, but additionally, Splyce do have the luxury of that hawk shot. Will give them some reliable vision.
Bear in mind that Wunder is slightly overextended in the bottom half of the map. They could have set up for a flank with Jankos, but Wunder did read the situation. He's going to back off as a result. This is exactly as we were discussing just now. The fact that deep vision is right now the priority. H2K are getting a bit of deep vision in the bottom half of Splyce's jungle, but they're not quite able to do it in the top half. Notice the 2 pink wards, or 3 even, coming out from Splyce, trying to guarantee that H2K can't get that vision.
Yeah, and they're very important, those pink wards, because to truly get vision control, Vander basically becomes a rotating ward bot. We see an engage here in mid though from Jankos and Talia.
Looking for a pick. In comes the Echo, not going to get the stun. Weaver's wall isolates Odoamne on the other side. You're going to cancel it out, nothing going to come from it.
So that's an ulti and like an engage attentate from 1 flash in the jungler. So this is okay trade for Splyce. It does mean that Trashy now, if they want to kind of commit to a Baron play, is much more prone to face check himself.
Very important to keep that flash body slam as they look for more crucial engages in the future, or the potential Baron steals. Splyce look a little more confident after that exchange, though. Are taking this opportunity to push in the mid, but Odoamne is not going to have it.
It's important to remember that Ryu, without that ultimate, it is a little bit harder for him to set up plays, but H2K might be trying to set something up for themselves as Splyce are forced to back away. But now H2K do have positional advantage on the mid. Splyce are going to have to force to take the long way around to defend this tier 2 turret in the mid, but fortunately they have enough wave clear to stave off any push that H2K are trying to set up.
Yeah, wave clear, a very condensed H2K lineup here, grouping after using those globals obviously to collapse, but there's a good hold from Splyce. And we started earlier, 6 wins, 9 losses when behind the 20 minutes for Splyce. So they're one of the more resilient teams when it comes to coming back from behind. It's what we're seeing in this gameplay. It's nothing special, it's nothing astonishing, but they're just hanging on well. Mainly because they really like to challenge vision setup. You could roll over and trade nothing for wards and be like, okay, we're fine, we're fine, we're fine. But suddenly you're that burning dog in the comic.
Oh yeah, this is fun.
This is fine. Splyce is not doing that. Those 2 pink wards at the entrance of the jungle make it so it's really hard for Vander to clear them, because he has to waste wards, clear the pink ward, base again, get more wards, and every time he bases and Splyce know, they can still win fights 4v5. And that's what's going to put H2K back on the map, and then they get some new wards in, and it's like kind of a cycle that's really hard to beat.
And of course, you can see them playing around those wards, but Jankos sees an opportunity now with so many members visible on the map to take out this vision. And Splyce starting to lose a little bit of control here, but they do have more wards ready. They will
Still a
retain
pink ward here.
control.
It has to be clean. Like there's 2 wards. There's a couple of wards being snuck in there.
Just looking at the ultimates available right now, everything is back up off cooldown. Even though Talia did have a couple of cooldown increases to that Weaver's Wall, it's still relatively low once you hit that level 11 mark, and that is going to be integral in order to set up plays. Trashy still doesn't have his flash available. He could be a target of focus early on, but really they want to try and shut down Kobbe and Mikyx as soon as they can, because these are going to be really big damage dealers in the next few fights, and if H2K really want to set up for the Baron, they need to try and shut down these low mobility targets.
One blue trinket has been cleared. Scuttlecraft has traded. Double pink what's in position here, so this is a good setup, but Forgiven has to base.
Backing out, Ryu taking this opportunity to clear vision, but control of the Baron pit lies solely in the hands of H2K now.
Not sure if I agree with the Forgiven base, despite having a full BS sword pick up here, is actually allowing Splyce to kind of approach safely. This could be a punish right here, for example. Any brush, you know, Rek'Sai could come out swinging with a culling, falling up, poking the jungler. They get another free ward into the pit.
Weaver's Wall looks to isolate the team.
Like Forgiven's not here. Like he's coming from base. This is the story we're telling, right?
Yeah, I mean,
what is this play from H2K? It feels kind of not on the same page. Yes, they're isolating them for a Cloud Drake, but Splyce is fine, you know. They're keeping Baron alive.
You're also forcing this Talia the ultimate, which now has a 2-minute cooldown once again. So you're not going to have that available to force any other plays. You don't get any summoner spells off the back of it. Yes, you're going to get yourself the Cloud Drake, which is a nice pickup, but Baron is really the play where you have to, where is the best place to force Splyce to come to you and get that fight that you're so desperately after.
Well, H2K looking for a fight of their own, but while they're busy taking that Cloud Drake, Splyce take the opportunity to clear out that pit, to deny that vision, and to regain control of that area.
2.2k gold all to Wunder, who's now keeping
Forgiven, knockback. Taric ult on the way in. Odo doing so much damage. They're backing out. Wunder, he has the Mega Gnar up and available. Taric ult has already been used. They're looking for a way into the fight. Sencux is in the back line. Trashy moving for war. Wunder hops over. Flash in. Jankos knocked back. No. Wunder knocked back into the team. It's going to be his burial. It's Forgiven picks up the kill. Sencux maybe looking for more.
H2K have such a great comp for kiting, and they're not done yet.
Kobbe in trouble. 2 stacks on the Z-Drive Resonance. Not going to find the third. H2K looking for more. Odo looking for more. He's going to grab it. Snap back to safety. H2K H2K in control.
A fight that looked so horrible initially for H2K with Wunder coming in from the flank is just played so beautifully. Something that you have to respect from Talia is her ability to just constantly walk backwards and fire off those Qs multiple times. She has the Rylai's completed. It is so hard to close the gap without a successful flank, and this results in H2K now going for this Baron.
Yeah, going for Baron. Odoamne finishes off Kobbe and then it snapped back to reality for Splyce here. They realize that they overchased. They look good for a second. They're not trying to flank off, but there is potential finisher. But look at Sencux, pretty sustained in this entire ordeal.
Does get stunned, is locked up, and knocked down. What burst damage coming in. Mikyx trying to keep Trashy alive. They want to be able to steal, but it doesn't look like they're going to get the opportunity. H2K walk away with the Baron, and that is everything for them.
Cool Cloudman collected here. H2K biding their time, slightly overstepping, but because they played the early game so well, they kind of survived this fight. And look, it's a good timing here. Wunder bases, gets to spend 2,200 gold, and then goes for TP flank. I think he takes the wrong path. If Wunder paths down here instead of up, he could actually swing behind his massive 4-man unit and combine, I think, the Mega Gnar with Sencux going in. So this is honestly a pathing mistake from Wunder. But right here, it's too deep. Flashing for just a single knockback on the enemy jungler is too greedy. I think Splyce should have been happy that they stalled out H2K, and really good kind of situational awareness from H2K that the hunter kind of became the huntee, you know? Like, it switches around, you know? H2K were the prey, but then after Splyce overreaching, Splyce himself turned into the prey.
And of course, H2K with such a massive lead, those mistakes are just compounded. If you make you can't afford to make mistakes at the stage of the game. You made mistakes in the early game, and you're running out of opportunities to come back. And H2K, now with Baron, are just going to make it that much harder. A 8K gold lead, approaching 9K, backing them up.
For H2K now, all they need to do is set up the 1-3-1. They have the Talia in the top lane. They already have Odo in the bottom. And with all three lanes pushing in with these Baron-empowered minions, and with side laners that honestly you cannot duel at this point, Splyce are definitely struggling for options to come back into this one.
Yeah, and this Talia ultimate is actually quite fantastic once you're sieging base. So if they get past this tier 2 tower.
Ooh, Wunder, knockback. Not gonna get much off it, but solid play coming in from Ryu.
You actually shut off people from defending turrets with the wall. You just cast it right behind the wall, and either they're stuck in front of the wall and they can get hit without the opponents getting turret aggro, or you do it in the same place and the enemies end up behind the wall and you can hit tower without the enemies being able to hit you. So
looks like that's going to be the setup, like just as predicted.
And then you get free access to the tower if you have minions. The problem is it's timed poorly and there are no minions. But in theory, this concept can be executed to get Forgiven on the top left, 3 hits on turret, and then he can dash out any aggression. Because the gap closers have to be used to hop over the wall.
Well, while we're busy focusing on the top side, Odo's spending his time on the bottom, and Sencux just does not do enough damage to break him off. And now they're going to move to an open inhibitor. H2K taking control.
They have now extended the tower lead to 7-0. They haven't given Splyce any windows of opportunity to get any real structural objectives themselves. And now Odo coming in extremely quickly.
I mean, we have to kind of repaint this picture. Like we were talking about, H2K have been, you know, struggling into closing out a little bit. But I don't think we've stated enough how H2K is only 1 kill away from a perfect game.
This is a nearly flawless performance. They've been out ahead of Splyce at every single step, and the one opportunity Splyce found in that mid lane, poor execution, cost them so much, cost the life of Wunder. For a young lineup, you have to be wondering how they're going to deal with the pressure if they go down a game here.
Notice that now, without the Weaver's Wall on Ryu, they've started to group up as a 4-man unit, putting a little bit more pressure down while Jankos splits in the top lane, and here comes the arrow.
Arrow connects onto Ryu. Mega Gnar is going in, but the Taric ult is in response. Can they burst him down? It hits him in the end. Ryu's going to be able to make it out. Suddenly, Mikyx is in trouble. Ryu finally dropped. The team fight's continuing. Sencux is in the back line. Odo with the 3-man stun. Snapback backs off, but H2K walk away with the inhibitor.
Yeah, and you see why Splyce is a team, though, that made it to, you know, the top 2 position here in the league, because their team fighting is extraordinary later in the game. Those were some really sweet combos, but the saving grace was that ultimate from Vander.
And for Splyce, that was the first kill that they have gotten since 4 minutes into this game. Slight morale boost, I suppose, is the bright side of this, but they did end up losing an inhibitor. But as you were saying, Crapo, that ultimate coming out from Vander was superb. It bought so much time for H2K, almost allowed them to turn the fight around, but unfortunately they weren't quite able to net any kills on their way out. So keep your eyes on this arrow. Lands nicely onto Ryu. He gets thrown back into the rest of his team, but he just manages to get in range of Odo, so he's able to chime in for that invulnerability. But then a very good ultimate from Trashy knocks him back into the rest of the team. But then the priority from H2K then is just take the inhibitor, let's back away, let's not overcommit.
Yeah, these guys also rely on each other. Wunder doesn't waste his flash because he knows Sencux has the Devour ready to gobble him up and then spits him out. Can flash out at a later instant. Kind of sucking in H2K one by one into the fight. But the 1-for-0 with inhib still going down isn't exactly what Splyce is looking for here. Incredibly impressive performance from H2K. Votes were kind of divided. Is Fnatic going to take it? Is H2K going to take it? They took it convincingly, and they're carrying on that stride. They're looking for a 4-game winning streak here in playoffs.
Splyce are really struggling here, and H2K absolutely ramping up as they grab their 3rd Ocean Drake. And you can just see how efficient this team has been. Even in that last fight, Odo being the one to take the step towards Rio, to get the protection on him, the team communication looking pretty flawless. And Splyce honestly just looked lost this game. They have been struggling to find a way back in, and to be fair, I don't know how many there have actually been.
And now Splyce, they really are on their last legs because there's big minion wave pushing in the bottom half of the map. Sencux is forced, and here comes the Talia wall to get this next objective.
Zoning off, maybe looking to knock Jankos back, but he's just going to flash to safety. A little bit of damage down on the turret, but the wall disappears.
Still not the biggest fan of the way Ryu is incorporating this wall into his gameplay. Feels very willy-nilly, almost at random. But hey, because you can.
He's got the lead.
Sending a message.
He can afford.
Do you see this ultimate? I don't need it. I'll fight you without it.
He's doing a representation. This is the mountain you have to climb, Splyce, to overcome it.
Oh, no, he's like this kung fu fighter with one hand behind his back. Like, I'll take it with one of them.
Well, Splyce are going to have 2 hands behind their back pretty quick here. If they do not stop this push, tower's set to go down. Jankos taking a decent amount of poke. In comes the tower call. Wunder looking for the setup. Hits 3 into the wall, but they're immune to damage. Nothing comes out. Mikyx takes him out to safety. Sencux getting 1v1 on the side by Forgiven. He's going to heal up, but H2K.
We're going to need to see a Taric pickup from Splyce or a ban early. Honestly, H2K are getting put in these positions where they can get massively punished if it weren't for that invulnerability from Vander. He, again, has such a large impact on the series.
Tower going down. Jankos back into the middle of the fray, maybe looking for their 2nd inhibitor here. Splyce not quite as prepared for the fight as they once were. No ult available from Wunder.
Bear in mind, they do have a big minion wave from the bottom lane. Someone has to go and deal with that, and H2K going to use this as an opportunity to force the 2nd in hit.
Backing off, cast is a little bit of poke, but H2K really taking their time. They know they've got this win if they play smart.
They're basically waiting for the Gnar ultimate to come available again here. Wunder purposely going into Mega Gnar as he's harassing here. Ultimate still briefly on cooldown, but HK don't know that.
Ball up. Pops out. Wunder looking for the setup. Hasn't found it yet. Leaps forward. Is going to knock 2 into the wall. Vander, of course, no ultimate available yet. Still waiting on that cooldown. Odo set to fall, but he snaps back. A bit of extra damage, but Weaver's wall is stopping the fight, and Sencux caught in the crack there, can't get out at all. Flashes forward, shut down onto Forgiven. This is the fight that Splyce want. They're moving forward. Ryu, though, kiting out. Wunder cannot chase any further. No, the confidence is there for him. He is not scared, has to back off in the end, but Splyce making moves to come back.
Really resilient Splyce here, refusing to give up that mid lane inhibitor, and they find Forgiven rather without this flash in the fight, despite being down over 12,000 gold initially here. And now they're looking to force maybe a bit too much though as they're heading to Baron.
Look at this, Sencux, he has 50% of his health, but he has the Crimson Rush to get back in. Odo has the GA as well, and he's trying to stop Splyce from doing this Baron.
Taric on the way, the team looking to back them up. Splyce doing decent damage here. Trashy now in the pit. I don't know if it's going to be enough. H2K moving forward. Hemoplague goes down. Wunder ready for a fight. Leaps forward. Knocks back. Jankos in trouble. Vander separated from the team. This is their opportunity, but the ult comes in. Flash comes in from Vander. He's going to back them up, and Odoamne is unkillable. Vander delivers the stun into the back line. Splyce are falling apart. The health bars are too low. Odoamne does too much damage, executing members left and right, and H2K clean house.
Yeah, Odoamne MVP in this fight, in my opinion, because he's challenging Mikyx on the Tahm Kench. If Tahm Kench is taken low, he can no longer save and devour his own teammates. And even without Forgiven, H2K clean up, because Splyce, they got their hand too deep in the cookie jar.
I gotta say though, honorable mention to Vander right there, because his use of the stuns on top of Odoamne to set him up to get those backline kills was absolutely phenomenal. Vander as well with the use of the ultimate once more to buy time as Wunder gets his ultimate once again is going to result in H2K taking game 1.
Second tower falls. Nexus now set ahead of them. H2K making a confident first move in this best-of-5 series as Splyce have to be left wondering what happened.
Well,